Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Bias Unit project. Today will be a continuation of the nervous system unit because in this video we are learning about action potentials. Action potentials are electrical impulses that travel down the neuron in order for the body to communicate. First, let's learn about the parts of the neuron. The neuron is made up of the dendrite, the axon terminal, and the myelin sheath. Knowing the parts of the neuron is important because action potentials travel on the parts of the neuron. In order for an action potential to fire, the membrane potential needs to shift. The membrane potential shifts when the concentrations of ions change as they go through the ion channels. At the start, the voltage-gated sodium and potassium channels are closed. Sodium channels have two gates, the M gate and the H gate. Potassium channels have only one gate, the N gate. The M gate is also the activation gate, and it opens when the cell gets more positive. The H gate is the deactivation gate and closes when the cell gets too positive. So these gates act as a way to balance the concentration of ions in the cell. The N gate is closed but opens when the cell is more positive. More detail about sodium channels. Sodium channels exist in three states: deactivated, activated, or inactivated. When the sodium channel is deactivated, the M gate is closed and sodium ions cannot pass through to either side. When the sodium channel is in the activated state, and current can pass through and change the membrane voltage, and this also means that the M gate is open. When the sodium channel is in the inactivated state, the H gates shut the channel and block sodium as the neuron depolarizes, or the inside of the cell gets more positive. Now let's learn about the actual action potential. Positive ions flow into the cell after the neurotransmitters bind to an ion and tell it to open. When ions make the inside of the cell more positive, this is called depolarization. An action potential will only fire if it passes the threshold value for the membrane voltage. So, for instance, if the membrane is only polarized to negative 80 millivolts, but the threshold value is negative 70 millivolts, the action potential will not fire. Depolarization is represented by the upstroke in the graph. Repolarization is when the cell is moving back to resting membrane potential. Sodium channels close and potassium channels open. It is represented by the downstroke on the graph. Hyperpolarization is when the cell becomes slightly more negative than the resting membrane potential because the potassium channels are open a little bit too long. In order to maintain the gradient of the cell, the sodium-potassium pump is constantly pumping sodium and potassium ions to either side of the membrane in order to allow these action potentials to actually fire.